Not every card is for everyone. You may see people online talking about how some cards are terrible, that they want them to change the card to better benefit their needs. And while we all would love to have a card that gives us 5x back on everything, as well as lounge access and a new welcome offer every single month, this is just not a realistic business model, because any bank that does that will go bankrupt very fast. What a lot of people don't realize is how privileged we are here in the United States with our credit cards. If you've ever traveled overseas and talked to someone about their credit cards, you will be absolutely shocked when you hear the type of earnings that their cards get, or the welcome offer that either was non-existent or so low that it would be laughable here in America. The cards that are offered here in the United States are way better than the cards around the world by a large margin. So if you can't find a card that works for you here, either you're not looking hard enough or you have incredibly unrealistic expectations. Each bank and program is set up for different people. In this video, I'm gonna go over which bank and program is designed for which type of person. We're gonna look at 6 different issuers being American Express, Chase, Capital One, Citi, Wells Fargo, and Bilt Rewards. These 6 different issuers all work with transferable currencies, which is mainly what I talk about on this channel. By the end of this video, you should be able to determine which one of these issuers suits you best. So first, let's take a look at American Express. Now, some of the negative things you may read or hear in videos about American Express is that their cards are too expensive, or that there's too many credits, or that their points are just too difficult to redeem. And while all this is true, for the right person, American Express is absolutely perfect. Now, you might have heard that American Express cards are designed for higher spenders, but you may have never actually analyzed this. Well, the way you can end up telling that this is the case is because American Express cards have high annual fees, much higher than any other bank out there. But also American Express cards have higher multiplier categories than other banks out there as well. Getting 5x back on flights booked directly with airlines is something that isn't offered by any other bank out there. Also getting 4x back on dining and on groceries without having a cap either every single month or every single quarter is also something that isn't offered by other banks out there. American Express does have caps on these categories, but they are really high and very unlikely that the vast majority of people are going to end up hitting these caps. So while there are really high annual fees, you can make that up if you are a higher spender with these higher multipliers. And American Express cards are really good for anyone who is loyal to them, because the more you use your American Express cards, the more you end up benefiting from them. This is the reason why all of those credits that are added to American Express cards end up working out for anyone who is loyal to American Express. You can get other cards outside of American Express, but if you do, you may end up forgetting to use one of the credits that are connected to your American Express card. But if you solely focus on your American Express card, then you're more likely to either use up most of the credits or all of the credits that are connected to the card. And also, if you've never checked out American Express's offers, they're so much better than any other bank's offers out there. You could activate the offers on your American Express Platinum and Gold card, and depending on your spending habits, you could end up wiping out the annual fee for both of those cards just by taking advantage of the offers. That is how powerful the offers are with American Express. And with the American Express Platinum card, you get the best lounge access by any card out there. You get access to the Centurion Lounge, the Delta Sky Club Lounge, Party Pass lounges, and more. Now, I know that some people may say, well, all of these lounges are becoming overcrowded, and also they reduce the amount of visits that you can go to the Delta Sky Club Lounge, and this is all true. But it doesn't take away from the fact that there's more Centurion Lounges than there are Capital One lounges and Chase Sapphire lounges combined. And if you're going to want to go to an airline-specific lounge, well, then you're going to want to visit a Delta Sky Club Lounge, because they are far greater than United Club Lounges and like 6 steps better than an Admiral Club's lounge with American Airlines. The only time you're going to want to visit an Admiral's Club Lounge is if you have the option of either going there or sitting outside in the snow. And some people might choose the snow. Now, with all those points that you're going to be earning with your American Express cards, you need to do research when it comes to redeeming your points with American Express, because American Express membership reward points are the easiest ones to get terrible value for, because they have way more options to give you terrible value as compared to giving you either good or great value. So I wouldn't say that American Express is an exclusive club. I would say that it's a club that rewards loyalty, high spenders, and people who like to do research. If you don't see yourself in either of these 3 categories, well, then American Express cards probably aren't for you. But for those people who are taking advantage of American Express to the fullest, they realize that it is the most rewarding program out there. And if you happen to be interested in getting an American Express card or any card out there, check out my links in the description box down below. Use my links helps really support this channel, and I'll be incredibly thankful for anyone who decides to use my links. Next, we're going to look at Chase. And Chase is for people who are seeking simplicity. Sure, Chase offers a 3-card setup, but most people who I speak to who have even multiple Chase cards love the fact that they only really end up using one of the card most of the time. If you have the Freedom Unlimited, it's probably going to take the bulk of your spending. because not only is this the best card to use in non-category spend, but also when it comes to Chase cards, they all going to give you with their personal side 3x back on dining, so you don't need to figure out which one is the best one to use in that category. Yes, the Freedom Flex card does give you a 5x rotating category every single quarter, but this tends to end up being a limited use case for that Freedom Flex card. So for most people who end up having a Chase setup, they tend to either use the Chase Freedom Unlimited card for 90% of their spend, or the Chase Sapphire Reserve card for 90% of their spend. And with Chase, you don't really get penalized for not using their cards month after month like you would with American Express. Because while they do have some credits, most of their meaningful credits are ones that you can use anytime throughout the year and not ones that you have to use month after month. But where Chase will penalize you is if you decide to go to other issuers before coming to them. Because Chase has this 524 rule where if you decide to get 5 cards with any issuers over the course of 24 months, well then you end up being disqualified for being approved for most Chase cards. So this is one of the reasons why a lot of people say to go with Chase cards first so you don't lock yourself out of their entire program. Now where Chase lacks is the higher multiplier on different category spend. When you look at American Express, they have high multipliers on a few different categories, and even though they have caps, they tend to end up being pretty high caps. You can earn a lot of points with American Express. But with Chase, it isn't the same case. Chase has a few 3x categories that they end up offering you on their personal side, but many of their cards have overlapping categories, making it less useful to have multiple of their cards. I mean, if you compare Chase cards to other bank programs cards out there that have at least a couple cards that they're offering to you, Chase cards are going to be earning you the lowest amount of points out of all the other programs. If it wasn't for Chase having many different welcome offers with their personal side and also their business side, most people who had Chase cards would have a low amount of Chase points because Chase doesn't have a 2x catch-all card, and also with the Freedom Flex card, that 5x category ends up being capped at $6,000 throughout the year. Sure, there are some tricks that you can do on their business side, but that's something that 99% of people are not taking advantage of. Now, although Chase cards may not earn at the higher rate as other issuers out there, where Chase does shine is that their points are really easy when it comes to redemptions. Whether you happen to be a beginner or you are a more advanced player, you're going to end up being happy with your redemptions with Chase Ultimate Reward points. I mean, I could give my Chase Ultimate Reward points to my niece, and she's 10 years old, and I bet you she could probably end up getting just as good as value as like 90% of the people who are watching this video. There isn't much to it to get decent value for your points. And when I say decent value, I mean 1 cent per point or above with your Chase Ultimate Reward points. Now, if you want to study the different transfer partners and get even greater value, well then you definitely can do that with Chase as well. But if you just happen to be someone who is a beginner at it, you won't be penalized for not really knowing how to use your points. Whereas with other programs like American Express, I know so many people who redeem their American Express points for 0.6 cents per point. And even if you are a beginner and you're trying to figure out transfer partners, Chase makes it super easy for you. Because not only do they have a 1-to-1 transfer ratio with these different transfer partners, but also there's going to be names you have actually heard of before, such as United, JetBlue, Southwest, and if you want to travel internationally, you're going to end up seeing airlines like Air France or Emirates, and then hotels like Hyatt. These are all well-known companies that even if you don't happen to travel a lot, you most likely have heard of all of these before. If you happen to transfer your Chase Ultimate Reward points to any one of these programs, it's very likely that you'll get at least 1 cent per point as a redemption, which is the same exact value as the cash out rate. And this is why I say that Chase is great for people who are looking for simplicity. Sure, people may recommend to get Chase cards first because of the fact that there is that 524 rule. You don't want to be locked out of getting Chase cards. But the vast majority of people that I talk to in real life do not want to get themselves a dozen credit cards, so the 524 rule doesn't really matter. What they want is simplicity, and when they work hard to earn their Chase Ultimate Reward points, well, they know that they can redeem them for at least decent value without having to be an expert in the points miles game. Next, let's look at Capital One. Ever since Capital One released its Venture X card, it has been competing with Chase for the spot for a person who's looking for simplicity. Now, similar to Chase, Capital One wants you to get their cards early, but a little bit different to Chase is that if you try to get their cards later on, well, they may not want to approve you. And this could even be with people who have perfect credit scores. The biggest complaint I hear about Capital One is that people can't get their cards. So sure, they may have great cards and a great program, but if you can't get their cards, what good is that? Now, although Capital One does have some similarities to Chase, they just do it better. If you look at a card like the Saver card is a better card than any personal Chase card out there. And when you compare the two luxury travel credit cards, the Venture X card is just a cheaper, better version of the Chase Sapphire Reserve card. They both offer Priority Pass lounge access and access to their own lounges. However, Capital One lounges are a little bit better than Chase Sapphire lounges. They both offer a $300 travel credit, although with the Capital One Venture X card, you do have to redeem it through Capital One's travel portal, but the Venture X card has a $150 lower annual fee than the Chase Sapphire Reserve card, so I'd rather pay $150 less to use the travel portal versus paying $150 more just so I don't have to use the travel portal. And when it comes to spend multiplier, I think most people would do better off with the Venture X getting 2x back on everything versus the Chase Sapphire Reserve getting 3x back on dining and travel. So the Capital One cards are both better and cheaper. The big difference ends up being on the redemption side. Similar with American Express, Capital One offers many ways to redeem your Venture miles for terrible value. So you do have to pay attention when you are redeeming them. Because if you decide to redeem for a statement credit that is travel, well, at least you can get decent value for your points. But if it ends up not being travel, now you just cut the value of your points in half. And unfortunately, a lot of people end up doing this. Because most people's mindset is, well, I'd rather get bad value for my points than use any of the money that's inside my bank account. Which in most instances, when you're not in a complete emergency, is a terrible way to look at it, but that's just how a lot of people look at it. So the only way for you to do better with Capital One over Chase would be to take advantage of their transfer partners. And unfortunately, Capital One does not make it easy with their transfer partners because they don't have a bunch of airlines you'd recognize. They have just added JetBlue, but it's not even a one-to-one transfer ratio, so it's not even worth looking at. So Capital One beats Chase when it comes to its benefits, its cards, and its earnings, but on the redemption side, it's closer to American Express than it is to with Chase. You don't have to pay as much attention as you do with American Express, but you do have to pay a little bit of attention with your Capital One cards, whereas with Chase, even if you don't really pay attention at all, you're probably still going to end up getting decent value for your points. So if you want luxury cards that are simple to understand, not overly expensive to have, and you're okay with paying just a little bit of attention, well then Capital One will end up being the perfect fit for you. Next, we're going to look at Citi. Now Citi has some of the strongest earning cards and programs out there. And I think the reason why you may not hear Citi get talked about very much is because of the lack of their referral program. Citi cards rival American Express when it comes to their earning potential. They have a 2x catch-all card, being the Citi Double Cash card, and this card has no cap, whereas American Express does have a 2x catch-all card with their Blue Business Plus card, but that card does have a cap. It is a high cap of $50,000, but it still is a cap. The Citi Strata Premier card is a card that gives you 3x back on a slew of different categories. Now this isn't as high as American Express's either 4 or 5x back, but depending on how you spend, you could possibly earn more points with the Citi Strata Premier card than you could with having multiple American Express cards. Now where Citi lacks against American Express is going to be the luxury travel card. They used to have a luxury travel card a few years ago, being the Citi Prestige card, but they ended up discontinuing that card, honestly because I think it was just too good. Now Citi has been rumored to be coming out with a new luxury travel credit card, so be on the lookout for that sometime in the near future. But if you are a high spender and you're not looking at getting new cards month after month, and you want to have low annual fees, and you don't care about lounge access, then you can't do better than with Citi. And when it comes to redeeming Citi points are the second easiest behind Chase when it comes to getting at least decent value for your points. So not only are you going to be earning a lot of points, but it also ends up being really hard to get yourself terrible value when you are redeeming your Citi points. And this is what makes Citi so underrated. This is something that not enough people take into consideration. People are always looking at the earning side. But if you end up earning 30% more points, it doesn't matter if you're redeeming at 50% less of the value. Citi is definitely a sleeper pick. If you are a high spender who doesn't care about lounge access, Citi 100% all the way. Next, we're going to look at Wells Fargo. Now, Wells Fargo is the guy who got out of prison and is really trying to reform himself, but everyone still just looks at him like he's a criminal. He is a hard worker and has a lot to offer, but many people just don't want to do business with him because of his past. Wells Fargo did some shady stuff. We all know that. And I understand why some people will say that they'll never do business with Wells Fargo again. But for anyone who didn't get burned by Wells Fargo or can look past it, look at their cards because they got some pretty good ones. They have the best hotel card out there, being the Journey card. They have the autograph card that has 3x back in a number of categories that can transfer out to transfer partners, and this card has no annual fee. Most cards that can transfer out to transfer partners have an annual fee, but because this one doesn't and also doesn't have a cap on its earnings, it makes this card pretty special. Wells Fargo has a 2x catch-all card, they have a business card, and they even dropped a specialty card being the Attune. They just keep on putting out new cards left and right, and they all are actually pretty darn good cards. Like if you look at the Wells Fargo's new business card, it gives you 2x back on all of your purchases with no annual fee, just like the American Express Blue Business Plus card that gives you 2x back on all of your purchases with no annual fee. The difference is that the Wells Fargo card has no cap, whereas the American Express card does have a cap. And when it comes to the redeeming side, Wells Fargo is going to give you decent value for your points. And if you want to take advantage of transfer partners, while the transfer partners aren't great, they're good enough for a lot of people who actually understand transfer partners. They definitely could add a few more, but for the time being, they're fine. So if you're someone who is a forgiving person, give Wells Fargo a try, because they actually have good cards. And not only do they have good cards, if you're someone who is okay with shuffling through a few different cards with one issuer, well, the lineup with Wells Fargo is really good for that. They don't have a lot of overlapping categories with other programs, so I would say that for the person who is looking to maximize with one program, Wells Fargo could end up being the winner for you. And then lastly is Bilt Rewards. Now, where does Bilt Rewards fit into all of this? You know what Bilt Rewards reminds me of? MoviePass. Do any of you remember MoviePass? It was a super cheap subscription service where you could just pay for one movie ticket each month and be able to see unlimited movies in that month. Sounds a little bit too good to be true, doesn't it? Well, it was. And Bilt Rewards seems a little bit too good to be true. You see, with MoviePass, every single time they got a new customer, they were losing money, because each customer who went to go see 2 movies a month, they had to pay for all of those movie tickets. Well, when you look at something like Bilt Rewards, every time they get a customer who's paying for their rent with their card, they're losing money, because Bilt is forking over the bill for those rewards that we're going to be getting when we are paying for our rent with the Bilt Rewards card. And not only that, Bilt Reward has transfer partners. They don't have the same transfer partners as Wells Fargo, who is funding Bilt Rewards. They have a different set of transfer partners that are the best transfer partners in the game. Now, this is absolutely great for us, the consumer, but it does make you ask the question, how are they able to do this? And also, Bilt Rewards gives 100% transfer bonuses, and sometimes even more, like 150% transfer bonuses, where with other banks who have transfer bonuses with these programs, I've never even seen them exceed 30%. How can Bilt do that? And you want to know what the answer is? MoviePass. Enjoy Bilt while it's here, because I have zero clue how this is a sustainable business model. The survey that they sent out showing their new cards pretty much shows that they cannot continue to do what they're doing and stay afloat. I mean, they advertise the card as a rent card. However, when people get the card and just pay for rent, well, they're not happy when people do that. And I completely understand why they wouldn't want people to just do that, because they'll lose a lot of money that way. But when you advertise the card as a rent card, this is what a lot of people are going to do. And that's how you become this decade's MoviePass. Now, I like Bilt Rewards, and I hope that they succeed. But don't be surprised if, just like with your MoviePass card, one day when you try to use your Bilt Rewards card, it doesn't work anymore. But there you have it. Those are the 6 issuers that I wanted to go over in this video. Hopefully this all makes sense and you realize which issuer may end up working out best for you. Now, I'm someone who has cards with all different issuers because I think this ends up being the best way to maximize my returns. But if you are someone who doesn't want to spread yourself out as much as I do, then select one of these issuers based off of who they are targeting, and they should end up being a great add to your wallet. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below which issuer is your favorite issuer. Now, if you happen to have any questions about any of these issuers, you can also drop it in the comment section down below. I'll do the best I can to answer it. If you happen to be interested in any cards, check out my links in the description box to learn more. If you do decide to use any of my links, it does really help out the channel, and I'll be incredibly thankful for your support. If you want to become a points and miles booking expert, go to Points Travel 101 to purchase my course. After completing my course, you will feel confident with booking business class and first class flights all over the world. If you happen to really like this video, do me a favor. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video, and have a beautiful rest of your day.